We're going to learn a new interface, and I'm going to recommend you guys switch over to it. Do what you want, of course, but it's really neat. So this is C-MUX, and it's only available on a Mac, as far as I know. And it's like we've been hearing about T-MUX with Robin. What I like about it is that over here it enables you to split panes and stuff, so I can have multiple sessions going, and you don't have to know those stupid hotkeys that everybody that to me was like the thing that was stopping me from moving to a T-MUX workflow. That's such a small little thing to stop one from doing stuff, but it was enough to get me to not do it, right? So different than VS Code, there's no file viewer. And what I found with a week of working this way is I don't need it. It's showing you the diffs of the things that you're editing in real time. And so you don't need to do it. Okay. So I'm going to talk to Claude to get going, just as a high level to remind everybody where we're at and to bring you up to speed. So we decided as a group, we're going to build an application. We're going to start doing something together, get some skin in the game. And then from there, what we would do is think about what we want to build next. And basically last Friday, we huddled around Robin as he furiously prompted, and we built an application, and we stayed till about 10:30 our my time, and we were able to get a working application that was saved up into his GitHub repo. And then from there, we haven't done jack. So we're going to take that GitHub repo, we're going to clone it into my SEO community application. We're going to take that thing and we're going to launch it as an application that lives inside something called the brain. Um, and then from there, we're going to confirm that it actually works. Anybody have questions before I get rolling? Okay, cool. I've had a crazy week talking about wins and stuff. I've had a lot of neat things going on, and I'm talking to a guy who's doing venture studio stuff at 11:30 my time. So that's my win, and I'm really excited about it. That's being recorded. You're going to delete that, right? Yeah. Okay. Hi, we're now recording. Okay, so I'm going to start dictating. I'm using Whisper Flow. If you're not using it, it's amazing for Claude Code. It gets all the acronyms right. It's ideally suited for coding. I have a GitHub repo, which is I want to take this tool and integrate it into the brain, which is a subdomain inside this repo. This repo is Python based. It has OAuth 2 capabilities that enable the user to log in and use the application. I want you to read through the repo, pull it down into my application, and integrate it into the brain. So I'm not saying this was a smart way to do this, by the way. And Ben, we've gone back and forth in terms of like how we work and how we don't work. I'm trying to give it as little guidance as possible just to see where it goes. And the other part of that is I want you to see where it goes. And I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm basically having it explore my application. I don't know if it knows enough. We're going to find out. What's really neat about this, while it's going, I just want to tell you guys some stuff that I've been doing inside my own development work this week that I found to be helpful or useful. I don't know if any of you guys have been working a lot with Cloud Code. I've got the most expensive Max plan, which is $200 a month. I've noticed that Anthropic is throttling token usage and session usage in a huge way the past 2 to 3 weeks, and it's impacted my ability to get work done. And that's the first time it's ever happened. So, just to remind you of some things that I found to be important or impactful. And when I say impactful, I mean like, can I work today? Kind of impactful. They're limiting tokens during peak usage hours, which is 8 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern time in a big way. And they're expanding how many tokens you can get when you're not in those peak hours. And they've talked about what non-peak hours are, and I forget what they are. So maybe one of us can do research on that online in this session so we can all get smarter about that. And uh, so that is one thing. Work inside the right time zones, the right hours. Second thing is I've gone ballistic on managing my context, and I've deleted a lot of plugins skills and anything I can really to reduce the amount of tokens that are getting used, especially stuff that happens on the startup. And the reason why is that anything that's going into your context right away at startup is being repeated every single turn in the conversation. And I've been able to cut out, I think, something like 50,000 tokens that are getting passed every single conversation turn. And if you think about that, when we're dealing with a token, a context window that gets as large as I don't get it. Why it's not letting me do. Boy, we might have problems. What? I don't know why it's doing this. Trust this workspace and continue. Do you want to read this? Yes. Allow reading. There we go. Okay. So what that meant is that when you're dealing with a million token window, what's happening is that after 10 turns, half of your context window is chewed up just by that start, which is pretty brutal, right? So I'm in a weird loop here where it's like doing all kinds of reading and I needed to pay attention to everything. And there's no setting here that would enable me to just let it read everything. I could have done dangerously skip permissions and all that. Oh, interesting. So we built this with React, and our application is a view-based app. So there's like intrinsically not a conflict. There might be a conflict. I don't actually know if we'll have a conflict. And we might need to rework it from a React-based app into a view-based application. And that's something that we should have probably thought of when we scoped it out last week or the week before. And we're just going to see what happens here because there's already OAuth that is, let's see what it says here. Python into your Express, blah, blah, blah. Google Auth needs a separate flow. Python sidecar stay. All TypeScript needs to be ported to JavaScript per your project rules. It looks like it's noting what all of our backend stuff is. Python, front-end views, front-end components, composables, new dependencies, OAuth flow. So I have some questions about what we need to do here. And this is neat from like just like integrating. I gotta let my dog out of the room. This is kind of neat from integrating code bases perspective, because we have two different things going on. We've got Vue, which is a JavaScript library. We've got React, which is a JavaScript library, and we have a Python sidecar, which is like we looked at what a sidecar was. It's basically like an embedded application that's another programming language, if I'm not mistaken. I have some questions though. It doesn't state here clearly if it's going to turn React into Vue. So I don't know if it's going to do that. It does say up here where it says, this is a significant integration porting a Next.js, TypeScript, and DuckDB and Python app and what it's showing here is that my app already runs, or it's using a router that's express.js, and it already uses Vue 3 and JavaScript instead of TypeScript. So it's going to do some stuff. I don't quite understand the scope, how big the changes are. So I'm going to ask it. Do you guys have any questions that you're coming up with too when you see all this stuff? Okay. Did we learn a lesson? I did. Build inside your framework's language, right? Like we should have used Vue. And I didn't even catch it when the scope was happening. So that's on me. Any other insights before I start talking at the computer? Okay, cool. I noticed that you're talking about integrating the app into my Vue, Express, and JavaScript application. Are we going to be transforming React stuff into Vue components? Yes, exactly. All right, cool. Port's almost 1-to-1, so that's great. The front end is the bigger transformation, 7 React components becoming 7 Vue components, plus a new composable and 2 new views, all following. All right, this is going to, yes. Okay, so it's saying, hey, I'm going to do this stuff. Do you want me to proceed? What do you guys think we should do here? This is a discussion, and we should keep it short. But do you guys have insights for what we should do here? Because there's a gotcha baked into this.
I mean, I'm definitely not thinking at all the same levels that you are in terms of taking all this in and thinking around corners. But I typically have two instances of Claude or Codex in my case, and I'm like passing the plan back and forth, catching stuff. But again, that's my style, and I don't want to slow us down here.
So what I'm seeing here is a complete lack of a plan. That I mean that's the takeaway. And it's Claude always works better with a plan. Always, 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 always go into plan mode. There is no plan. There is a list of bullet points for what it needs to do. And we're at 89%. So, like, the context window is small enough that Claude is still smart. So, I could just say yes here, but got to go into plan mode. And
And are
so,
you saying it's not in plan mode because it is just bullets and not like a first, second, third?
yeah, there's no detailed stuff. It's just
Okay.
there is no window for it to like work off of.
And
Yeah.
also, Liz, see how at the bottom it says in purple, accept edits on?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a specific plan mode that tells the harness to do something different. So
Okay.
you can, I think, shift tab to put it in manually to plan mode or tell it like Noah's doing.
Okay, I'm going to dictate now. Work to a series of subagents in a way that they can work in parallel without further direction and without asking questions of you or me. That means that you need to plan with significant specificity and detail. Okay, so it's going to do stuff for 2 to 5 minutes. When it's done, I'm going to say, I'm going to ask it to use hindsight 2020 a year out from now. I'm going to ask it uh, learning everything of having to live with this plan for a year. Is this really the most elegant plan possible? And then to rework the plan into the most elegant plan, knowing everything that it knows now. And then it's going to apply some changes to the plan. And the output is actually going to be a physical thing. It's going to be a plan. It's going to be like a document, a markdown document that it can use to reference as it's building things. So notice also that as we're working here, we're not coders. We're applying mental frameworks to the process as we're doing it. We're making decisions and we're problem solving and we're trying to watch it problem solve and seeing if it's actually applying its thinking to solving a problem and not just being stupid. And what I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed this over the past month, Opus 4.6 is just finding the fastest rather than the smartest solution. And so you have to kind of stay on it to use a lot of its. So notice if I had just said yes, I don't know what it would have done if it would have read those files. I don't know what's happening there. So trying to think if I wanted to share with you guys some things that I've been doing over and over and over again. So one thing that I've been doing in terms of managing context, I want to show you what that process looks like because I think we can do these two things in parallel. Would you guys find that to be useful? I think it's super smart. Okay.
Yep.
So we go number one, I've been battling usage all week. This has been a thing that I've had to struggle with. I personally pay for a max plan and I've used all my work plan doing work stuff and I've had to dip into my personal thing at times to kind of get stuff done. So one thing that I've been trying to really know what's going on all the time is where am I in my week and constantly knowing when my week expires. And you can see I've got 5 days left and I'm already at 53%. So it's like I'm using tons of tokens and you need to kind of have your mind on that. And that's the usage one. And then one thing that you can do, I just started this, right? I just started this session and I'm just going to say hi to it. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can see how much I have left. And I have 97% left, which is flipping awesome, which means that I'm only using what is that? 3 times 5. I have 15,000 tokens at the beginning of my session. I think that's what that means because you take 3% and I multiply it by 5 to get up to 1 million. That sounds ridiculous, but It's basically like 3% of a 200,000 window, and then I multiply it by 5 to get to how many tokens I'm using. And I think that's accurate. Let's see if I'm an idiot and I know how to do math or not. But you basically use the context, and then you see how many tokens each thing is using, and it gives you a sense of how much space you're using for each one of the things inside. And you just scroll down through all of these things and you make decisions about which one of them you want to get rid of. And I noticed I had a lot of stuff in my memory. This particular repo doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. My other repo uses more tokens. My other repo, when it starts up, I have 91 or 92%. And when I started it a week earlier, I was at 70%, which meant that I had a massive quantity of tokens being chewed up by a lot of different stuff. And so when you go through your files, find ones that you can make smaller and just have conversations with Claude about, hey, I'm noticing I have a lot of stuff in my memory files. Which of these can I make smaller? I also reworked my Claude.md file in a variety of different ways. Number one, I did research into how to use it to reduce the quantity of lines actually appear inside the Claude file. And then I also did research into, well, can I just use them as pointers? Meaning, can my Claude file just be a list of rows that all point to other files that are context files that Claude would only need when it needed those specific types of things? Like, hey, I'm working on UX. Okay, that means I'm going to pull in this one line that points at typography rules. I'm going to pull in this other line that pulls into user experience rules. And I had a really long conversation with Claude, and it was like, yeah, no, that's not good enough. It's a balance. And what it meant was you can also use an at import. And an at import means that it has to read those files every single time it loads, and that some things need to live at that level. They're important enough that they need to be imports. And then other things that it can make decisions about, like, hey, yeah, I don't need this now, I might need it later. Those are things that it points at. And so using that kind of hybrid mental model, it was able to save me whatever, 20, 30,000 tokens every time it starts up a conversation, so that every time we have a conversation turn, it's not sending those 20 or 30,000 tokens each time back and forth. I also went through skills, and we're still waiting for this. So hopefully you guys don't feel like we're wasting time. You get value out of this. It was able to identify skills that were both pulled in at the project level and at the user level, and we deduplicated. It was really easy to find that. There were also plugins that were and were not being used. I also did an audit of all of my skills and all of the plugins, and I found the ones that had never been used, gone. We found all the ones that had not been used in the last month, made decisions item by item. And then I think using that whole philosophy, we were able to cut out another 10,000 tokens or something like that. So it took a long time. This process was like 4 hours spent. And the reason I was willing to invest so much time was that I'm using up like my entire subscription in 3 days each week versus 7 days. And I needed to be able to do that. I saw another thing that was, I forget the setting, I'll find it and I'll share it in build, but someone on the Claude Code subreddit had shared a setting that enabled it to look for tools or not look for tools. And that one setting meant that it was saving over the life of 1,000,000 tokens, like 15% of its usage, which is flipping wild. And I forget what that was. So I'll see if I can find it. And I'll share it in the build thing. And those things have enabled me to get a lot more out of my sessions. I also did an experiment where I switched from the million tokens down to the 200,000 tokens to see if I could work that way. And honestly, I found it to be super frustrating. So I switched back to 1,000,000, but I want to show you how to do that because, so basically what you can do here is you can, do you see how it says default recommended Opus 4.6 with 1,000,000 context? What you can do is you can go at model space opus 6. I think I can go like that. Let's see. How can I switch to with 200? Because I'm an idiot. I forgot how to do it. Okay, window. I'll switch over to the plan thing in just a second. So what I like about C-MUX, by the way, when I'm in VS Code and I've got multiple terminals going, there's this weird little side panel on the right that'll show you all your sessions. And it's really annoying because you'll think you've selected this session and it's giving me a menu to do. And I'll hit enter. And instead of it selecting enter here, it'll switch between the sessions over here in an awkward way. And with C-MUX, it's more predictable when you click through. Okay, so let's read through this really quickly just so that we can make decisions together as a group. Okay, so it updated the plan, made some stuff. Okay, it's documented key decisions. Okay, and by the way, this is neat because it teaches us how to write a plan, or at least how Claude does it, right? Context, what? Integrate Robin's tool into the brain. Why? What's the challenge? Decision, ML, Python ML, the Python sidecars, blah, 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 blah. To the doesn't, these phases are already marked non-fatal in the original. V1 delivers the full tool minus the clustering. So let's see what it's saying here. DuckDB, Google OAuth tokens in Firestore, session ID. Okay. I'm going to make this a lot bigger. You guys probably need this to be a bit bigger because I'm having a hard time reading it too. A lot of this we can probably just say yes to. It's just basically talking about data structures and API structures, conventions to follow. All right. So it's basically trying to get rid of Robin's stuff that's in Python from a high level. That's what I'm seeing. And we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to interject and say, like, look, we really just wanted to move our React stuff over to Vue. We really wanted to be able to move our React components over to Vue components. We want the Python application to work as it worked from inside the GitHub repo. We don't want to disable the Python functionality. We want it to continue to work as a sidecar. What do we need to do to implement that? And if you guys have better ways of prompting than I'm doing, you're probably noticing how non-specific I am. And you can use my prompting as great examples potentially of what not to do. And just take mental notes as I'm doing it. You're going to see areas for improvement and just take note of those. And we'll do a postmortem. We could even do a pre-mortem, as it were. Okay. That's the standard 200. Here is the extended run context, use model. It doesn't exist. The model does not exist in the that's why I'm asking. So they basically made it difficult. In my other session or in my other repo, I ran a command that enables me to select the 200K. And I don't remember what I did to make it possible. So I apologize about that, but we might need to add something to the settings. And once you get this command, it'll be super easy and you'll just do it. Oh my God, it's using so many tokens.
What happens when it does that? Do you try to stop it and start again, or do you just go?
You mean when it's just blown through tokens?
Yeah. Are you like, oh my God, stop?
Yeah,
Or
escape.
okay.
The two most powerful keys on my keyboard are the escape button and the bottom left button. And the escape is awesome because it's like, whoa, Nelly. And you should hit that anytime ever it's going down the wrong road. And you should feel incredibly empowered to do that. And the reason why is that you're not going to break it. You're only going to stop it from doing whatever it's doing. You'll never break a process. It'll never break code. It'll just stop. I have it in another repo and window, which is okay. Let's read these docs here. You can see my ADHD brain in full effect here today. Now I can see exactly what's needed. We're switching back mentally to Robin's thing. The traffic diagnosis repo already solves the Python prob, blah, 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 blah. We don't care about cold starts. Yes. Believe it or not, the coding should be really fast. Most of this is really fast. It's in the setup time. Yes, you can read from my other repo. Yes. Hopefully you guys can't hear my wife talking with her college friends downstairs.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah. What's our fallback? Perform a web search to find the solution. Okay. It's like my mental checklist. I should have set it up front. There were like three conversations that could, three iterations that could have happened without me having to tell it. I know that it's really easy. Like I did this the other day. Here's what I found. Okay. I'm going to find we're just going to kill this because it's not going to be super useful. And I'll find the conversation that I set it. Oh, that's going to take some effort though. Let's see if this just works. Now I'm going to go into the model directory and see if it lets me do this stuff. And then I think what's going to happen is let's just make sure that this is going to work. And one thing that we might want to do too is there's going to be two implementations of this. One is inside the brain, and then one is potentially just on the SEO community's website. And the way we built this last week is it's actually better for just living at the root domain of the website, because everybody has to OAuth to get into the SEO community, into the brain anyway. And so why would we make them OAuth twice to get access to the tool? That doesn't really make sense, right?
Well,
So-
are we deleting their logins both times?
Deleting their logins?
Remember the conclusion we came to do the OAuth was only if we did like self-destructed data storage at the end.
Oh, and this makes them understand it's really a very clear signal, like we're not keeping your information. Yeah.
Got it. So we do add that already. I thought they'd conflict, like if one stores it and the other one doesn't.
No.
They can go together. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think so. We'll find out. One of the things we were trying to do with this tool was to make people understand or make people feel very comfortable with the fact that they were providing OAuth permissions for the application. The brain already makes people OAuth into the app in order to use it. And so they're already sharing their OAuth 2 with us either through their Google or Slack credentials. Given that we're downloading Search Console data, we want to make sure that they are comfortable with that. How are we managing the Search Console data at the end of the application running? And yeah, it's good enough. I'm actually confused. So we're just going to leave it there and see what it does. That didn't work as expected. Instead of setting the model, let me try the correct syntax. Let me switch over this other thing just so I can show you what it looks like once we get it set right. And then here, I'm going to just pick a big window and I'll close all these others. It's kind of a bummer because I had all this stuff rolling. Bummer that it closed those sessions out. I was deep in it. Add model, and shoot, it took away my other model. So the end result of doing the stuff that I'm trying to show you is you'll have a fifth item and it'll say Opus 4.6 with 2K context. You're probably not going to want to use it anyway, to be honest. Like I found it to be annoying. And the end result of that whole digging down into this was that I found that instead of trying to work with 2K, to instead think of 80% as the rough cutoff for when you want to do something. I call it a handoff, and I actually made a skill called a handoff skill, and I can share that markdown file with you guys in the build. channel so that you can analyze it and see how you want to make it better for your own workflows. But basically what it does is it takes everything in this conversation, finds what's important about it, and then it copies it all to your clipboard, and you then you type in clear, it starts a brand new conversation window, and you use Control V in order to, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? I haven't really done that much this morning. You'll hit Control V and it'll paste all that stuff from the old session in, and it'll start a brand new session with brand new context window. Because right now, if I stay at 80%, it's passing 200,000 tokens every message, which is a lot, right? And as my context shrinks, it's going to go small. It's going to send more and more and more tokens. So it just gets progressively worse and worse per session. And so I'm just going to tell it handoff, and it's going to read through all the stuff. And you'll notice that my command is below this thing, and it's doing all kinds of, stuff above. So if I hit the escape key right now, it's going to consider what I'm telling it to do. It's now going to put my command above whatever it's thinking about. So now it's running the handoff command. And that's really useful. If you've ever been like, oh, do a thing. Why aren't you doing a thing? Hit the escape key and it'll pull it above what it's trying to do. Have you guys learned anything, or is this all repetitive? What have you guys learned so far?
Liz.
Yeah, I've learned that I guess my workflow is not great when working with Claude. So I've learned different ways to prompt it, what to do when it does things wrong. And like, I never really thought of always having a plan. I just kind of hope for the best. I've definitely learned some new ways of working for sure.
Cool. Good. I'm about to start paying for tokens, just so that you know where we're at with that, what that 97% means. That means for the next 2 hours and 7 minutes, if I keep using this particular Max account, I'm going to keep using the tokens associated with it. And I'm probably going to switch from one plan to another and use it for 2 hours and then switch back. But anyway, so I ran the handoff command. I'm back at 90 whatever 4%, which means that I'm only sending 12,000 tokens now, which means I'm using way less of my plan, right? Please stop asking me. And we're noticing that it's just like powering through tokens.
And do you ever turn on the dangerously skip permissions?
I don't, but that's not because I learned a lesson the hard way or anything like that. That's just, I don't do it. I'm pretty present most of the time. Like James, you and I've had discussions pretty consistently around the whole like, hey, I can get this thing working for 45 minutes straight. I have generally felt like it's not necessarily that I've learned that bad things happen, but I like to be in the loop. Jordan, my pal, uses beads to manage workflows, which basically is you use what's called spec-driven development, where you spec out every single user story, every single epic, and you front load all of the effort, and you give the model every single thing it's going to need to do to execute every single task. And so you then can basically walk away, and he'll do all the work up front when he's planning something out, and then everything else is just down to execution, and you walk away. And then when it's done, you run the thing, you find all the bugs and you fix them. And it's really about how you spend your time. Like when he's coming up with the plan, you guys saw how the plan mode for me was 5-10 minutes, right? I was investing 5-10 minutes up front to see what that output is like. And then that means that I'm spending all my time fixing and iterating. He spends all of his time up front because he's really organized. And that aligns a lot with how Ben works. And that means that he has less bug hunting to do and less bug fixing to do. What did I do that changed my workflow this week? It was telling me that I was basically messing up with everything that I was doing around that. It did like an analysis of how I work, where I do these massive pushes on day one. And then on day 2 and day 3, I'm like in these like bug fix, massive bug fix cycles. And this was really interesting. You guys might get a kick out of this for the way that you work. And I think it's actually smart. And it's this whole thing of front loading versus back loading effort. And the way that we front load, which is different than the extreme, not extreme, but lots of time going into planning, is all of the commits that I do now have to be 500 lines or less when I'm committing stuff to GitHub. And before, when I was just being Noah working alone, I would just like commit sometimes, just make sure I'm committing, I'm not losing work. That's the purpose of committing. It's like, no, every commit needs to be granular. And the reason why is that it makes it very easy to audit all of the stuff that was built. And you can see how every single change was done. And it makes it very easy for Claude to go through Git commits to find how changes made their way through a repo and not have to go through 6,000 lines of code and get confused at the same time because that context is so large, right? If it's having to do little granular checks with little things, it can figure everything out.
And are you using like Wrangler?
Yeah. Yes. Big time.
Yeah, like I'm learning more about that. Like I
Yes.
think I mentioned in the past, my GitHub Actions bill was like $100 per month for a couple of months, and like my whole deployment thing was backwards. So it's like,
Why are you okay? That's another conversation. We should dive into that after. I don't understand why you have bills like that. That you shouldn't be experiencing that.
I was doing like full lighthouse runs and like stuff on like
Oh,
all the pages and
that's
stuff.
wild.
Yeah.
Okay. Integration. Next steps would be committing, testing locally, commit.
By the
And
way, just to chime in here, if anyone has any
oh, Jordan,
questions about, hey, I heard you talking about me, so I had to jump in. You know, my ears were ringing.
I didn't.
But if anyone has any questions about my process, feel free to ask. Happy to answer them.
Did I properly describe how you approach things?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you know, just to recap, I spend probably 80% of my time building out a plan or a PRD where I will not necessarily just use Claude Code, but I'll interact with both Claude and ChatGPT Pro within the web interface and have them iterate, find holes, find bugs with the PRD, you know, any lack of clarity. And then as a result, I'll have multiple PRDs from Claude, you know, from ChatGPT, from Gemini. And then I'll actually download them all, feed it to ChatGPT in a net new window, and have it combine all three together. So I have almost like this uber mega super duper awesome, very detailed PRD. And then from there, that's when it's almost atomized into individual units of work, which are those beads that Noah mentioned. Really, really taking my time planning things out so that when I do have it ready for development, I can just let Claude take the wheel, if you will, and have it develop overnight or what have you.
By the way, Noah, for something like this, do you think WebMCP could be relevant?
You mean as a browser testing tool?
Well, just it's like to access the brain, right? Like you're authenticated through the browser. So in theory, that's where the WebMCP stuff really could take off.
Authenticating through the browser, so web MCP could really take off. I don't know, man. I have not. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's in the use cases that, with other MCPs that you're just hosting, you have to authenticate in, and that just takes issues. And you can't have like a registry for every single MCP out there. But through browsers and websites, the browser has solved for the authentication side of things through the users. So that's where, like, if you have an MCP, everybody has access to a browser and a website. So kind of that hybrid use case of your agent through your browser interacting, the web's MCP is the official kind of tool calling and function calling that you can program in. I'm deploying one now on my own site.
I can't show you guys this because it has client data, but you just reminded me something that I built this week that is really flipping useful.
Can Luke
I
and Leia show us?
I can't Princess Leia show you, but I will show you Princess Leia version next week. In the Princess Leia version is I have a function that removes client data from all of our stuff, so I can show it on. I'll set up SEO Loop so it has Star Wars version next week. But basically, I have a way of monitoring all of our data pipelines, and I built an agent that can help me debug stuff that's going wrong inside my data pipelines. And if it's a code problem, I can have it create GitHub issues that I can then assign to Claude to fix. And this week I added 34 different tools that this agent can have to do stuff. And I was really concerned about Guardrails because it has the ability to make changes in databases. And so I had to use Guardrails to really tightly scope what this thing is doing so that someone couldn't log into the application and be malicious about, delete star, delete everything out of the database, stuff like that. And so the agent can add things. It can change specific fields in specific tables, but it cannot delete anything. And it was useful because, for example, one of the problems was that one of our data pipelines had a client referencing one specific Google Cloud data set that was wrong. It needed to look at one specific project and one specific data set in that project and one table inside that. And it was pointing at the wrong place, which meant that the data pipeline wouldn't run every day. And I found that to be incredibly useful. So like as you're building applications that you need to administrate, it's not a bad idea to have a chat tool, and it's not a bad idea to have it be able to do stuff to help you. And it's also not a bad idea. In fact, it's the only way to do it, to give it really tight guardrails so that it can't break everything. And the building of it was pretty simple. It's just talking to Claude, telling it what you want the thing to do, and hooking it up to whatever models you want it to have access to, and being tight about the guardrails, and also thinking about token usage back and forth, because oftentimes these chat things will build. Debug that. Debug the building. Let's go back. Ooh, should be broken, yo. Copy. So a lot of times this in the browser console. I also have built into that same thing for my pipeline monitoring tool. I have this function where I can look at every pipeline, and to the right of it, there's a button that says sync, meaning, hey, run this thing again. And then the second one is a diagnose button. And I can click that and it'll create a full readout of everything that happened when that pipeline tried to run. And I can copy paste that into Claude, and or I can have my agent pull the output in and then diagnose it. And I can even have that agent fix a lot of the issues that are going wrong, and or create that Claude, create the issue in GitHub for Claude to go fix it.
Have you ever used kind of the multi-swarm skill?
Is that just a built-in?
Yeah, like somebody, I don't use it like prescriptively yet, but like sometimes I randomly turn it on.
No.
And yeah, like somebody added it in, like you can spin up like this swarm and it will like assign things.
Just tell it to be greedy about delegating work to subagents. That doesn't mean I'm doing it the right way, by the way. Does this error persist after a hard refresh? Let's see. Sure does. It might be in the middle of a deployment. So this is something, this issue, by the way, that it's talking about is something that I've been struggling with all week long. And James and I talked about this on Clubhouse on Tuesday. So for my Cloudflare thing, how can I show you guys this without showing any kind of client data? I can't really show you this because it has client data. This is a real error. Let me check into pre-existing issues, bash command. So what are we doing? We're looking at our front end and we're stashing stuff, meaning we're just pushing some code aside, and then we're running a new build. And the build has to pass. If the build doesn't pass, it's not going to deploy. One thing that I can do is go to, I got to stop sharing for a second. Console. I'll just go into a different one. We're going to go into big We're going to go into Cloud Run functions and I can show you all this stuff. This is the problem with being tightly embedded in a, you know, being the guy that's like building stuff. Okay, so services, Slack scheduler.
And like, did you just kind of switch your API to your personal one from work, and then like the work was okay with that, or
What do you mean?
like you said you had to dip into your own Max plan?
I haven't talked with Joy about this. I might ask her for a second.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area a bit too.
I mean, it's expensive. This stuff's
Yeah.
expensive. And I know that I'm driving more than $200 of value each month with each one of these things, right? Like the speed at which I'm able to roll this stuff out, I think is cool. For example, we're building out a whole new reporting platform that I couldn't have done a year ago. And if I had to build this whole thing by myself, it would take me a quarter to do. And I've basically,
You
and
probably have to hire another expert too to
no,
help
I
you.
mean, like Ian has insight into what I've been building, and his insights are different than mine. And Ian, last night I built this thing that will make it even faster to build reports out. Like it's uh, all that matching and event matching and channel matching and all that stuff. It's doing a bunch of that in an automated way, so it'll save you half the time. So, and I can show you guys the reporting piece, I think, but I might not be able to because it's like Sterling Sky data instead of client data. But the thing that's neat about it is we're getting away from Looker Studio is the takeaway. I mean, I basically was right before my vacation. I was like, "F this! I'm not doing another Looker Studio transition," and I basically built the reports out inside of Vue. And what it means is that we'll be able to roll stuff from Looker Studio over to the Vue thing. It also means every time we need to do a template edit, it'll be me spending 2 or 3 hours versus three of us spending 60 to 100 hours. So it will be better, but it's a big lift right now to transition over. So I haven't been really paying attention. Vendor also depends on the Vue, blah, 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 blah. But there's clearly Vue code leaking into the vendor chunk. The issue is that blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there's stuff getting moved around in the wrong places. What's funny is you guys are all going to leave, right? And then I'll get it working 2 minutes later.
Have you also used like kind of in parallel the desktop Claude because it can open the browser to
No,
kind
but
of
I looked into that. I was thinking of you and I set Claude Code up for the first time. And if you're on a Max plan, I haven't logged in to do this, but you can set up remote control now, which is not dispatch. And remote control, I think what you do is you go like this. I think you go remote control from inside a repo. You have to be on the Max plan, and then you switch over to it on your phone and you navigate to that session, and your phone has to be in the same user. Now I can run Claude Code from my phone. That was a big learning for me this week. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. It's more of like I mainly work in Codex, like the Codex app with OpenAI, but it's like if I'm working on something and I want to verify and check things, I'll paste whatever I'm doing into Claude Code app, then it'll open up in the browser and confirm and test everything, and
Mhm.
then give me a report back. And it could even log into GitHub and kind of pull all the nuances of what you're shipping, which I thought was really interesting.
Yay. Okay, cool. So now we got this stuff. I think we're about 2 minutes out. I just got to make sure it's cloud run source deploy. Okay. Cloud run source deploy. We're about 2 minutes out, I think, from getting something that we'll be able to see if it's working. So just as a reminder, not a reminder, but just to tell you, so the SEOcommunity.com is a website that's powered by a tool called ModX, one of our community partners, and we love it. And then a subdomain is brain.theseocommunity.com. And that is a Firebase hosted application. And the way these things work when you're doing a Firebase application is that there's a front end, which is just a series of files, and then there's a backend. Our backend is broken right now. So the brain isn't showing anything. And so it deployed files And so there's stuff that might or might not work. And there's also a backend deployment, which is a cloud run stuff. And that's what's deploying right now. And that's why when we go over to the brain, well, this isn't the brain, but it was trying to be brain.theseocommunity.com. Nothing's working. We still have this thing problematic. And it's problematic because of our front end deployment was broken, I think. I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm going to just clear this, run it again. So these are different. These are different problems than we were getting before. So that's a tag manager problem. I'm just going to let it know that I'm seeing this stuff after the deployment, just to see if it's FYI.
But that kind of example you just did of kind of going into the console in the browser, like that's what the Claude app could do in the background if you kind of paste it in.
Yeah. Yep. Seeing this in the browser. Okay. So now I'm gonna switch back and see if we're good. And I'm gonna clear it first. And also, by the way, I have another skill called QA Explore. And that's the same issue. I just want to clear it and check because it might be a different vendor chunk than what I had just copied a second ago.
What I really appreciate is how building all of our own tools has given us infinitely more opportunities to brand our own products. And I love all your names now.
Aren't they fun? I
SEO
love
Loop. He's got a
like
logo and everything. It's like instant branding.
Yeah. I love this stuff. When I was at Bike Shop SEO, I built a bunch of tools that were really fun and they all had fun names. Like one of them was called Forklift. I loved Forklift. Forklift enabled us to like clean up Google ads.
Yeah, we had one called Content Sniffer, and it searched for words across content in WordPress and custom fields. So in compliance, that's important because one mention of the wrong thing can get you kicked out. And so you have to find it even if it's in a meta description or a title tag or whatever.
Does anybody remember one of the number one tools, keywordshitter.com?
That was amazing.
It's still up. It's still up. And it's actually like the number one tool for building your prompt tracking list.
Do you remember Portent's random title generator?
No, I haven't heard that one.
It was like a Mad Lib for making this is it. You just enter your subject in it. But like our team used to use title tags and like way back in the day. We're like, you guys don't do it. What's our subject? AI tools.
Bike Basket was fun. It was, and I came from Nantucket Island that was like had a Nantucket Bike Basket. So like it
Oh,
was
bike basket. I like that.
this was cart recovery. I built the first cart recovery tool or cart abandonment recovery tool for the bike industry. And then forklift was to optimize your product feed.
Oh my God. This
And
is so fun.
the Softail, what did this thing do? Oh yeah, this automatically looked through your product
Related. Yeah.
unrelated things. So I called it Softail. I love that.
Oh my God. That's clever.
Oh, I'm a namer. I love naming shit.
I'm so bad at branded
Not that I'm
tools.
good at it.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a front end. Traffic diagnosis. Let's see if this thing works.
Oh my gosh. This is it. You guys. Woo!
Oh, okay. Exactly. That is it right there. The gut punch.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, so it's taking me to weird places. Okay. So now we're in bug hunting mode. Now the off isn't working probably due to a redirect URL navigated to blah blah blah. Probably let's see what it says here. Is an auth issue, not a redirect. Let me check how the OAuth route handles authentication and how the front end found the problem. Does a full window redirect to the back end. This is a browser, not an API. So no Firebase, blah, 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 blah. Now update the front end to use an authenticated API call instead of a direct. So there's stuff inside my app that makes things only do So it's tying into my authentication that's already in place. That's how I'm reading this. Commit and deploy. It looks like it's only doing a front end, which means it'll be a faster deployment. It'll just be in the front, which is like a 30-second thing versus a 2 minutes thing.
Noah, I have a question for you. I
Yep.
apologize if you haven't answered this yet. What's been your biggest unlock with C-MUX so far?
Seeing it all happen, just being context aware of what's happening. And I found that I basically have like 2 to 4 sessions running at a time with subagents, and having the awareness going. Plus, it's got pretty cool. It's not cool. It's just it has notifications. So if I'm doing something else, it's like bing, bing, and it'll tell me when I need to intervene. So it's keeping me. You also still need the blah 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 blah. Completed. Front end is live. Let me deploy the back end. So we're expecting it not to work. I need to send someone a message, guys. Give me a sec. And I don't know where my Slack's gone to, so I got to find that. Where's I'm supposed to be in another call right now. I just got to send her a quick message. Okay, let's go back. I'm expecting it not to work. Yeah, it's not working because it's reloading. Yes. I need to stop sharing. Sorry, we're getting into OAuth keys and stuff like that. Okay. So it's setting up secrets and yada yada. And I can't have those exposed, so I'm just having it do it via not sharing. What APIs? I might need to turn some APIs on. And it looks like everybody else is jumping. Okay. Why don't we call it, everybody? And what I'll do is I'll get it working and I'll ping in the build channel when it's ready, and then you guys can all play with it. It should take me a couple minutes. It won't be need to list the why do we need GA4 properties? So I will ping you when it's ready and then you can play with it. Does that sound good for everybody?